You are exactly where you need to be. You're not ahead, you're not behind. Hello and welcome to Mindfully Thrive with me, your host, Ella Humphreys. This is the podcast that celebrates the present, the joy in where we are, the journey it's taken to get here, and the ability to see our greatness for the future. We celebrate female founders, adventure seekers, and creative entrepreneurs who are building their dreams alongside raising babies and any other life commitments that can so easily distract us from the path we truly desire. This is a podcast about coming back to who we are in this life, and that our dreams, goals, and ambitions are valid and possible, while also being a loving and present parent. This week's opening quote is a favourite of my guest today, Stacey Harrison, the founder and owner of The North Kind. She's qualified physiotherapist and has worked in the NHS and privately for almost 20 years. Thankfully, her obsession with science and the brain led to her to continue to search for answers for her children's needs and looking for solutions to help them calm their overactive minds. This led to her deepening connection with mindfulness and the power of mindset. Stacey is married and has 3 kids and a big furry dog. She's a beautiful being and is driven to help children feel connected to their power. Stacey teaches children about the benefits of mindfulness, helping them develop self-confidence, increase self-esteem, and ways to overcome anxiety. She shares with us some gorgeous, simple practices we can do with children of any age, even with friends and other family members. Stacey and I clearly have a common goal, and I'm delighted to have her join me here today. Hi, Stacey. Welcome to Mindfully Thrive.
Good morning. It's lovely to be here.
Wonderful. So I'm going to just start with the 3 questions I ask all of my guests. So What are you grateful for today?
So I was having to think about this morning. I'm always grateful for cups of tea in the morning. I'm very grateful for the end of homeschool, I have to say. That has been a huge relief. So yeah, that's a big one this morning, a big weight off our shoulders, I think.
So we're recording this on the 6th of March and homeschooling's finishing on the 8th, back to school on the 8th. That's correct, where you are? Yeah?
Yeah. Well, so I live in Leeds. So although I'm Scottish, I'm in Leeds. But so my youngest goes back on Monday, but my 2 oldest actually are both at high school, and they've got the testing to do before they go back. So they're not the end of the week. Anyway, it still feels like a relief. So yes, I'm very grateful for end of homeschool.
That light at the end of the tunnel is very near.
Absolutely. And I'm very grateful for this opportunity, actually, Ella. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Absolutely. Really nice. Thank you very much. And what does thrive mean to you?
So this is interesting. So so I was another one that I was having a little think about, and I think so to me it's a lot about, it feels like the pieces of a jigsaw puzzle that all come together to kind of make you flourish and be the person that you are. And so it's about, partly being a good mum and, sort of being around for my kids, being present for them, partly about being a good wife. And, I'm not quite sure what is entailed in that. I think that's very different for different people, and very much now about having my own identity and being able to work in my own business. That's really important to me. And I just feel, it's taken me a long time to kind of realise that all these pieces fit together, and it's not just one or the other. It's a combination of them all. And so it's really important that I have my own identity, which I think you can lose a lot when you're when you first become a mum. And my oldest is now 14, so it's a long time in coming, it feels, to sort of get to this point where you feel happy about all the different parts of the jigsaw puzzle coming together. So it's a lot of different things that
I kind of, what you're saying totally resonates, and I do feel as mothers, we go through seasons. So at the beginning, when we're new mums, it feels impossible. Well, it did for me. I had
Yeah.
my two daughters very close together. I've got three, but I have a 28-year-old. Well, he's going to be 29 this year, a 10-year-old and a 9-year-old. So
Oh,
I've been a
wow.
mother for a very, very, well, my entire life, pretty much.
Yeah, wow.
And hence this podcast, the drive in me to hear from other mothers of how they keep their identity, continue to build on the things that they're passionate about without losing the connection with their children and their
Yeah.
family. So it's about that
It,
juggle and the balance
it's a real
between it
difficult,
all.
it's a
And you do
real
go through
difficult balance.
seasons when they're very
Yeah,
little, you kind of probably give more to them than you do back to yourself. So it's
yeah,
about
I totally
evolving.
agree. I found it hard being a mum first time round,
Mm,
and almost losing that identity. So it was difficult. It was really hard to kind of process through that, and it's only recently really that I feel that I've become more able to stand up for, that not stand up for myself, but stand up for, everything that about me that
yeah.
needs to be, I don't know, it's difficult to explain, but it's
Like
a reason.
making time on a Saturday morning to do something that's beneficial for yourself and your business, as opposed to taking the kids to the park, or, sometimes they
Exactly.
have to take a secondary seat
Yeah,
in
yeah,
this
and
growth.
it's difficult to know whether that's sort of like you say the seasons, like as in it's difficult to know whether I've got to this point because my kids are now a little bit older and I feel more able to let them do their own thing, and for me
Mm,
to say, okay, well, I'm going to put myself first today, and this is
mm,
what this is what I'm doing this morning, or whether it's an age thing, or I think it's hard to know, it's hard to recognize, because I
yeah.
think a lot of people come through this stage and age and get to the point where they do realize that they need to put a bit of priority on their own self and
Yeah.
what makes them tick. And yeah, it's interesting.
So how old are your children?
So my oldest is 14, my middle daughter is 11, she's almost 12, and my
Mhm.
youngest is 9.
So
So
similar here in this
yeah,
house.
yeah.
And so before we go on, so what would an ideal morning look like in your life if you
Oh,
could
so
choose the flow of
my
your morning?
so my ideal morning is now early morning. I love an early morning, which is quite new. It's over the last year, I think. Maybe I get up. I don't set my alarm, but I do get up at whenever I wake. So it might be 5, it might be 6, it might be 7, but whenever it is, I will get out of bed.
Mm-hmm.
I just love that peace and quiet. I think again, maybe it's to do with the pandemic. Maybe it's just having that time and space for yourself. So yeah, so nice peaceful morning. I like my cup of tea. I usually read for a bit in the morning, and then I often do like a 10 or 15-minute meditation, which is part of my kind of, if I do meditation, it's part of the morning. I tend to slot it in there really.
Mm.
So I then will kind of take the dog out for a walk. That's a big part of my morning, and usually listen to a podcast, which is nice.
we, we have very similar routines in the
No,
morning.
really,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I get up early. I do set my alarm, but I get up and then I sit and I meditate. I meditate by myself, and then I have like a mindful connection. So I've been working with another person who wanted to build on her mindful practice.
Oh,
And so
wow.
we sort of connect through WhatsApp and just do a video call of a mindful 10 minutes together.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
And
That's
then,
really cool.
yeah, it's been really lovely. It's been really, really lovely. We do it just Monday to Friday. And I feel it's benefited me because I've been kept accountable. And she
Yeah.
feels like she also does it at the weekend, and she does it during the holidays by herself. And it just feels like it's kind of a hand holding, a gentle way of connecting. And
Yeah,
yeah, it's
that's
been really
lovely. That's
lovely. It's really
brilliant. That's
special.
brilliant. Yeah, that's really
I
nice.
don't speak or guide her. We just literally sit together and focus on our breath.
Yeah,
And
wow. That's quite a connection, isn't it?
yeah, it's been
That's,
lovely. And then I get out and walk for about 50 minutes. Sometimes the dog wants to come. Sometimes the dog wants to hide, get back into
my dog
bed.
always wants to come.
No.
She's always up for a walk and a swim, actually. She does a lot of swimming. So,
Wow, how
yeah,
lucky. You live by the water. Well, a
well,
lake, river.
we live near a lake, yeah, and a river. So we're in the middle of, well, we're in Leeds. So we're very urban in Leeds, but we are really lucky that we have a massive, I think it's one of the Europe's largest park spaces, actually, like green spaces in a city.
Mm-hmm.
And it has 2 lakes in it.
What's
and
that
then
called?
Roundhay,
Uh-huh.
Roundhay Park. And then we often go up to a river. She just loves any swimming.
Yeah.
And it's
Water.
nice to walk by water. And
Definitely.
it feels very freeing, I think.
Wonderful way to start the day. Very
Yeah,
good.
it's lovely. Very nice.
So, how long have you been running your business, The North Kind? And could you share with us what it is you do?
So the North Kind has been going since last summer. So it was a kind of pandemic business, and it basically is it's like a 2-pronged business, really. So I provide a service to children in schools where I do like mindfulness teaching with them. I'm looking into doing some private classes and some other things, but obviously it's been a bit difficult with the pandemic. That side of things has stalled a little bit because it's very difficult. Obviously schools have been shut, and even when they were open in September, it was very difficult to get in and contact head teachers and things. So it's been challenging. But I also sell products that sit alongside that boost children's self-esteem, boost their confidence. And that side of things I really enjoy doing, and is what really I've concentrated on up to now. Mm-hmm. But now that the kids are going back to school, I really would like to focus more on going into the teaching side of things.
So when did you discover mindfulness, or has it always been part of your world? Was there an instant?
Yeah, so basically my eldest daughter, who is now 14, she struggled a lot with her sleep when she was younger. So when she was around sort of year 5, year 4, year 5 and year 6, really, we really struggled with her. She's a real overthinker. And so, mind whirring. She was great in the daytime, no real anxieties or worries, but it was just the nighttime. And so, of course, as a mum, you explore all sorts of different avenues to do whatever you can to try and help. So we did all sorts of things. We did massage, we did Reiki, we did sort of mindfulness, we did meditations, so there was a real sort of practical background to my start of mindfulness, really, because it had a real sort of purpose, I think. And so out of all the things that we tried, we found that mindfulness and mindfulness meditation were the things that really made a big difference. And in fact, actually now, she has no problems with sleep. And
was it falling asleep, or was it waking up in the night, or was it?
It was falling asleep. Yeah.
Stopping so the mind a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So she would go to bed. We would have a good routine, sort of every night, but she just would lie there wide awake. And of course that then sparks off more anxiety because you're thinking I should be asleep, and then that kind of just makes the whole thing worse. And sort of worrying mind and mindfulness. We used an amazing CD and book called Sitting Like a Frog. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Yeah.
It was so good. And so I used to do it with her to start with. We would both lie down together and we would do it together. And then we got her like a really old school CD player, because we didn't want her to have a phone.
The book comes with a CD, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And because we didn't want to do anything where she had control of a phone in her bedroom at night, we bought like this old kind of boombox sort of CD player, and so she would choose the number that she wanted to listen to, and Yeah, and that really, really helps. So that was what initially sparked my interest in mindfulness. And then at the time, I've had a previous business to this, which I was in with my sister, called Scamp, and we used to make empowering message sweatshirts for kids. This all sort of tied in with that business as well. But then my sister has subsequently moved to Hong Kong, and that basically just meant that it was too difficult to make that business work. So we had elements of mindfulness within the previous business. And when we shut that down, which was in just before COVID in 2020, so in February we sort of closed the business down. I decided that my next step was to really take that up a gear and train as a mindfulness teacher. So I did that online with a brilliant program called Youth Mindfulness, which was it was like a 12-week program, twice a week, and
usually
it was
quite long.
Oh, it was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And that then actually really instilled a much firmer practice with me, because when I'd done it with my daughter, Poppy, she, we would do it at night time. And then when she started to become more independent in that, I didn't necessarily take part in doing any meditations or mindfulness. And so, but doing that course just really brought that to the fore, and I was meditating every day, and I really noticed a massive difference in clarity and just so many things aligned more. It was really kind of eye-opening. So I trained in that in the summer.
Wonderful. So your products are beautiful. You make these little medals
for
children.
Thank you.
And just little gifts of acknowledgement and appreciation for the kiddos. And I think that's really beautiful.
I think it's really important that particularly during this last few months, that, they are recognised for their achievements, because I think there's been a lot of negative headlines, about children missing out, losing out, catching up, a lot of negative words that they can catch on to. They're not, they hear the news on the radio. You might not be sitting watching it with them, but they see things and they hear things, they pick up on it. And so I just think it's really amazing that they have, been so resilient, so adaptable, really it's incredible. And to celebrate those achievements, I think, is really positive and a really good way for them to see that, they've come through this really difficult time, but they've come through it, and that resilience will be there. The next time something happens, they'll be able to dig deep, they'll know. And I think it's more important that we focus on that side of things rather than you've not done these from to that proverbials or these compound sentences or whatever,
Definitely. I mean, where I am, I live in Spain at the moment, and we've been in lockdown. We were in lockdown last March to basically, they didn't go back to school. So till June, that was our lockdown. And then we went back to school in September, and we've managed to stay open as a school this whole time. And during that time, especially with my younger one, the balance, and I am a mindfulness teacher, I feel like I have this responsibility and duty to try and be as calm and contained as much as possible. I mean, it tested my practice hugely. And I feel for the kids whose parents are just really, I mean, everyone's struggling during these changes and times. And the acknowledgement of giving the kids that understanding, you've done amazing. We as a household have done amazing. Let's forget the actual academic stuff. In fact, we want them to keep their minds as healthy and as
so
clear
important
as possible. Yet when we
important.
go back and focus on, oh, you haven't understood this, or you're not doing that, or that is such a challenge.
And in actual fact, I feel, these are skills that are instilled in them, which are lifelong skills. They're not, they're not academic, they're not maths, they're not English, but they are things that they will take forward in life, which are so much more important than,
That's why the work that you're doing and will continue to do, going into schools and teaching this message of being able to just find stillness in your own body.
And I really can't wait to be able to do that. I cannot wait to get into schools. And for me personally, I feel that if they can learn young, they're much more open to all of these ideas. They're much more open to listening to people coming in and talking to them about so many different things. And so if it's instilled at a young age, then it comes out in high school when maybe they're having a tough time with a friend, or maybe they're having a tough time with the work. I just feel that, I don't know if it's nothing, nothing happened to me as a youngster. It was a very lovely childhood. But I just feel for kids these days that there's so much pressure from every angle, from school, from social media, from parents, from friendship groups, that if they are able to dig deep into sort of their own confidence, their own self-worth, their own stillness, that, they will be able to move forward. And that is hugely... it's just a huge passion that I can get these kids to take this on board and move forward with that. So that's my big passion.
Definitely. I'm totally with you on that. So we've come to the time in the show where I like to take a little bit of inspiration from the things that you're doing and ways that you relax and unwind. So I was wondering if you could share with us, what are you reading this week?
So I've literally just finished How to Fail by Elizabeth Day, which I know you like.
Philosophy.
Well, it's the How to Fail one, actually. I haven't read philosophy, but that's coming up.
Oh, she actually has the How to Fail book.
Yes.
Did that come before the podcast then?
I think maybe as a result of the podcast.
Okay.
But philosophy is a separate book, which I haven't got, but I'm getting. So so How to Fail. So I've really enjoyed that. I just love how she flips failure on its head, which is exactly how it should be, because, and
our
again,
journey.
Children can learn that it's okay to fail, we can learn that it's okay to fail. It's part of us.
In fact, I feel like it's really important that we do fail.
Yeah.
Because it's
absolutely.
through those failures that we become who we are. And we can only really grow and evolve through making mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I'm also reading The Midnight Library, Matt Haig's Midnight Library, which is really good. That's I'm partway through that, but that's really about I suppose, it's a novel as opposed to sort of non-fiction, but it's really great, really good about being in charge of your own destiny, really, I think. So
very good. Are you watching anything? Do you watch much TV?
I'm not saying we do watch television. I am not watching anything in particular at the moment, but what I am loving doing just now is on a Friday night, we are having a Friday family movie night, which is lovely. So just random films that each of the kids are choosing themselves. So last night we watched The Bigfoot Family. It's been a nice way for everybody at the end of the week to come together, and we get popcorn and pizza, and so that's been good.
Wonderful.
But I'm not watching any series or anything just now.
Okay. Netflix. And what are you listening to? A podcast, anything that you...
Oh, yeah. Well, I love my podcasts. I absolutely love podcasts. I just find them so inspirational. So I've been listening to yours, Ella.
Bravo.
I love the How to Fail podcast, as you can imagine, and also Happy Place, Fern Cotton's Happy Place.
We probably have a very similar library of podcasts.
Sure.
Actually, we should screenshot and interchange what our podcast listings are.
Always good listening to find out what other people are listening to that have similar interests to you, because it's sometimes a bit difficult to navigate your way around podcasts.
Definitely. I am very much a follower. I pick my 10 and I kind of just stick to those until I get told of another recommendation. So
I'm the same.
Have you heard of this self-care podcast?
Oh, no.
Oh, it's really fun. Really good.
Write that down. Self-care podcast. No, I've not heard of that.
Self-care podcast. Yeah, they're two friends. So they bounce off each other, and every week they test different self-care practices.
Oh, really?
And they come back and share their experience. It'd be really good.
Oh, that sounds great. Oh, yeah, I'll definitely listen to that.
And any apps or props or gadgets that you like to use?
I use the Chopra app for meditation. So, and I love that. I really love that. So that it helps to keep me accountable, I think, because it tells you you've done it every day, and also you can go on a little journey with it. You can do your sort of 1, 2, 3, and 4 with different. I don't know, is it like coaching? Maybe would they call it coaching as well? And
they have courses.
Yeah, and then as well as the different meditations that you can do. So that's one of my top apps for the moment.
Excellent. Thanks for those. So coming back to the present day and managing work, family, obviously coming out of lockdown and kids going back to school, it's going to look a little bit different for you in your household. How do you keep the balance and the harmony around that vision of doing it all?
Yeah, this is hard, and I find it hard. I've started to plan my week better, which, again, maybe relating to lockdown and having to homeschool kids, I've just found that having an actual plan for the day has helped things move a lot smoother, and I'm going to continue on doing that. So I've got a friend who's a bit of an accountability partner. So she also has her own business. So we WhatsApp each other on a Sunday and say, these are the 5 goals we've got this week. And then on a Friday we say, well, what did you manage to do? So there's no pressure. Excellent. It's just, but planning is really key. I've found in the past that if I don't have a plan, I jump from one thing to the next, and I feel at the end of the day that I've really not achieved anything of any great significance. Although I have achieved things, but if there's a plan there, then that just works better. So yeah, so that's a big thing.
And the idea of you taking your time in the morning to really connect with yourself as you go then into the rest of the day. Do you find ways of prioritizing the North Kind at certain points in the day, or does it just have to fit around your family's needs first?
Yeah, it has. Again, in lockdown, it has fitted around what's been happening. But when it comes to next week, when they will be back at school, then I do focus on that, because for myself, it's really important to work on that and see it grow. So that will be my kind of 9 till 3 job, if you like, when the kids are back at school. So it is priority in the week. I was just going to say then, hoping at the weekends that, there's either nice things like lovely podcasts to record, or I don't have to do any work at all, which will be lovely.
So you have experience in running your own business prior to the North Kind. And so you've got developing to the North Kind only over the last year, but you do have a lot of those self-discipline and skills that as an entrepreneur and a business owner would need to have to make sure your business does grow and develop. really don't depend on anyone else other than yourself.
Yeah.
So how do you set your, have that discipline to make sure that your business is going to be a success?
Yeah, there's a lot of hats to wear, which can be very difficult. I think prioritizing is a big part of it. You have to have a massive passion behind what you're doing. If you're going to build a business, you have to really want the outcome of it, or you have to really want to do it. Yeah, prioritizing, planning, accountability, all those things.
So would you recommend that people who are in your situation and they're just maybe even earlier on to find that accountability partner, to build a mastermind group, be where they have people that they feel safe with, that they can openly express the challenges and the struggles?
Yeah, I think it's really key. So in the business I had before with my sister, there was obviously two of us, so we could always bat ideas off each other, which, and you can confirm whether an idea is a good idea or maybe it's not such a good idea. But when it's just you on your own, it's really difficult to always, I think you have to trust your gut. You have to really go with your inner gut feeling, but to be able to discuss it with somebody else and have other people, even whether it's just in a Facebook business group or like a bunch of friends that are on a similar sort of path, then it just allows you a bit of time to express what might be worrying you or what you're thinking about or what are the next steps for your business. So I think it's really important to have somebody to work alongside, bounce ideas off. It makes a big difference.
I agree. And then also you're able to then communicate the challenges that you're having. And if you keep coming stuck or up against a wall, maybe that other person will give you a bit of insight into how that's happening or why it's happening and what options you could take to keep going or change direction or,
I think it's really important to know that people are on different parts of their journey, people, of their business journey. And, there's always somebody out there who's done something that you are looking to do. If you want to set up a podcast, you have to ask somebody for help to move forward with something like that. It's not just all going to be within you to know these things. So yeah, I'm part of a business collective now, which meet every week. Well, online, obviously. But that makes it, again, there's that accountability where, you're turning up, you're showing up and there's also there's lessons they're teaching us. Each week we get a sort of masterclass on something different. So, you're soaking up all that information, but also in a safe space where you can ask questions that you might think are silly, but they're never silly. No. It's always important to ask because, otherwise you just get stuck and don't move forward. And one of my quotes actually that I was thinking about for this morning was "Done is better than perfect," which, sometimes you can be so held back by your own perfectionism that you never get anything out there. And, you never feel that you've got it quite right, or it doesn't look quite right, or it doesn't sound quite right. But I've had to take that mantra on a bit myself because I struggle with having a perfect email or having a perfect Instagram post, and it doesn't get anywhere. Yeah.
Totally. I mean, this podcast, and people, obviously the listeners will hear, it is definitely not about perfection. It is a massive learning curve. So from 5 weeks ago, I didn't know how to do anything.
Yeah.
And it's literally, and now that I've committed to once a week, my editing and my finished product is going to have to be just what it is until I eventually will get better, a little bit better and a little bit better. There was part of me that wanted to get everything recorded for a first season, edit it all, and then start putting it out there as perfect. And it's just not who I am either.
Yeah.
I just have this fire to get things done. And if that's the case, I'm going to have to sort of accept that it's going to be a little bit frayed around the edges. And
but that's great, because all the things you're learning whilst you're doing that is, I mean, it's hugely beneficial to learning things. And like in the How to Fail book and podcast, she talks about all these things. If you don't put yourself out of your comfort zone and you don't fail in inverted commas, then you don't learn. So so done better than perfect is definitely a good mantra, I think.
Yes. The pause button. This is a guided meditation for practicing mindful speech, an exercise that I encourage you to bring into your experiences with others. We can bring in a mindful practice, actively regulating our nervous system and creating opportunities of proactive calm to rewire our brain and body to a state of healthy connection. It takes a few minutes and can be utilized at any time. So before opening your mouth to speak, bring mindful awareness to your intention. Ask yourself why you are going to say what you plan on saying. Examine the possibility of saying it with even greater kindness, or smiling as you speak, as this changes the intonation of your voice and welcomes in connection. Consider before you communicate whether your words are timely and useful at this moment. We often gossip or interrupt to avoid uncomfortable silences. Not every silence needs or wants to be filled. Before you speak, mindfully ponder whether or not this is the appropriate time to talk, and notice what the purpose of your word is and how they will be of service. If it's possible that your words will put someone down or interrupt as you're speaking, or even ring as untrue, I invite you to practice mindfully reconsidering your choice of words. The words we use and the messages we use are a choice. Connect in with your body and listen to the messages with your beingness, and choose if you want to put yourself in that position. Whilst speaking, speak slowly and be mindful of the words you're using. When your partner in the conversation responds, observe your body and listen, as it will be giving you feedback. Always remember that we can't control those around us, but we can bring mindful awareness to each interaction we have. As we slow our response rate down, it gives us the space to choose our words, and our response will be more aligned to who we really are and who we really want to become. The more we practice mindful speech, the greater our choices will become for changing our patterns, and our brain and our body will become attuned to the vibration and energy we want to give out into the world. Practice the affirmation, I communicate clearly and honestly. I communicate clearly and honestly. So just coming back to, we are moving out of lockdown, but lockdown and going back into the social context of school and meeting people and face-to-face again brings its own anxieties. As much as we've struggled and gone through tensions at home and everything else, there's going to be another wave of a different type of anxiety and stress, fear coming up. What would you suggest people do to help their children manage and navigate this new era that we're evolving into?
I think it's a lot about talking. So keeping lines of communication open between parents and children, really listening and observing, I think. So if they're coming outwardly and saying they're concerned about returning to school or going back out to see lots of friends, or it's really listening to what they are telling them and acting on that. So whether that be with school, for instance, whether they take them, walk them to school, show them again where they will go in, where they'll come out, talk to them about the fun times they've had in the playground, that type of thing. And observing, I think, really making sure that you are clocking whether your child is potentially hibernating because they don't want to re-emerge into what will be the real world again at some point soon. And I think it's difficult, I suppose, for different age groups. Younger kids are kind of probably going to just have to come along and do what mum and dad do. If they're going out with friends, they will come along. But for older children who spend a lot more time in their bedrooms anyway, then it's just, I think, being aware of whether you feel that that's a healthy amount of time that they're having alone in their bedroom, or whether maybe they need a little bit of help to re-engage with their friends, or it's really hard. It's really difficult, I think.
Definitely. So sort of keep a watchful eye, and also I feel express how you're feeling. So sort of share how you might be struggling, and because it might look like to them that you're doing fine and you're just getting on with it and you're moving through it, and maybe you are, but that's because you've taught yourself how to overcome challenges and difficulties, but it doesn't mean that they're not there inside of you. So just sort of sharing openly.
I think
with
it's
your kids.
Openness, really. It's really about being open, and they will, model the sort of behaviour that you want to see in them, or you would like for them. And, if you are a bit concerned about meeting a friend, tell them that. That's okay. It's all right. And they will see that that's okay to have those same concerns and worries. And, they might feel worried about meeting up in bigger groups again, because obviously for a long time we've not been, they've met one person. I think I really think communication is key.
Definitely.
To sort of listening in to how they're feeling, and like you say, for them to observe how you are, and
openness again, just show them that you're willing to be vulnerable and express yourself to them too.
Exactly that.
And for anyone who wants to start developing a mindfulness practice with their children or on their own, what would you sort of suggest of 3 sort of tips to get going?
I think there's so much information out there about mindfulness. It can actually be a little bit overwhelming. I think also that people think that mindfulness is just meditating, and they think, oh, how am I going to be able to do that with my child? How can I get them to engage in meditation? And obviously that isn't just what mindfulness is about. It's really about, as being in the moment. And so there's a few things that I think are really lovely introductions. One of the ones that I particularly like is the 5-4-3-2-1 sort of senses mindfulness, where you can obviously be in your house doing this, but I think it's really nice to do it outdoors. So when you're going out for a walk, listen. When you go out for a walk, look for 5 things that you can see. So really stop and take a moment and look around. And can you see, the bark on the tree? Can you see the colours of the leaves changing? Can you see a bike? Can you anything like that? Then 4, or listening out for 4 things that you can hear. So you're using 4 senses, 5 senses. Can you hear birds? Can you hear the crunching of the leaves under your feet? 3 things you can touch, 2 things that you can smell, then 1 thing you can taste. So that might be your lunch from earlier on. Or it might
wonderful.
be I think that's a lovely technique to really engage the parent and the child within mindfulness. So the 5-4-3-2-1 technique. And then I don't know if you've heard of this one, the 3-breath hug, which I think is lovely. So basically you hug your child So great big lovely hug, and you do 3 breaths together. So you do a deep breath in together, hold it for a couple of seconds, and then a deep breath out together. And that has a lovely magical sort of moment of connection really between the parent and the child, and is a really nice way to just be still, feel held. It's lovely. Another one, which again is not a meditation at the end of the day, where we use a journal or we just chat about it around the dinner table, but what 3 good things have happened in that day, and talk about what you're grateful for. And that, I think, is nice, where they start to appreciate that it doesn't have to be big things in their life that they're grateful for. It doesn't have to be that they received a gift. It could be that actually they're grateful for the sunshine today. As you've talked about earlier on in this podcast, what are you grateful for? And I think that's just a really lovely thing to instill in kids. Definitely. From an early age. And
we have a big A3 moleskin, these posh diaries that I think I bought my husband as a sketchbook about 20 years ago, and it never got used. And so we found it and we got it out. It's quite a few years ago now, and we don't do it every day, but when we randomly remember and we discover it, we get it out and we basically draw our emotions. We write down why, and then we sort of do another page which has all the gratitude. And looking back from when they were little, it's just really funny because there's some comments in there, like, and so we're remembering things that we wouldn't necessarily have carried and remembered with us. So it's a diary come gratitude book. I definitely recommend that, because it also brings the whole family. And my husband, he's not a meditator, he's not a mindful, it's not his thing. That kind of brings him back into being part of the communication of the nighttime, because I tend to sit with my girls and we talk, and my husband's just got home and he's doing his dinner or whatever, but he then comes in, we make him come and take part in the book. It's really fun. It's just lovely moments of connection again.
We use a journal called the Happy Self Journal. I don't know if you've heard of that.
I have
used that for quite a number of years now, since they launched it, and that's a really great tool for kids. And they've just launched an early years one for age 3 to 6 as well. Cool. So now it goes all the way up to teenage years, and that is a brilliant tool to have. So brilliant tool to use.
Wonderful. And just to finish off, what would be the one piece of advice or a reminder that you want your children to hold in their hearts forever?
This is where I want them to totally 100% believe in themselves, be self-confident, be happy, and that is all I can ask of my children. That I just want them to know their own worth.
Beautiful. So Stacey, for our listeners, how could they find out more about your products and what you do, and where's the best place for them to get more from you?
So I have a website, which is thenorthkind.co.uk, and I have my Instagram feed, which is @thenorthkind.
I'll put all of those things in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you, Ella. It's been lovely.
I hope you enjoyed the conversation we shared together today. It's brought me a deeper sense of clarity in my role as chief communicator with my children, aware of the important connection and communication plays in our role as parents. We know it ourselves to have another person listen carefully and compassionately to what we are saying, and listening to them in return is an important part of connecting to each other. When we become active listeners for others, we help them find their own words. Over the last few weeks of building Mindfully Thrive, I've become acutely aware that one of the biggest challenges as I learn to listen to my guests is to become really present as they are speaking. It's difficult to not get caught up in the next question or be thinking about what I'm going to say in response to what I'm hearing. So my suggestion for you this week is to try to set some space to practice becoming an active listener. Practice with your children. Allow them to learn and to try it out with you. I'll give you 3 questions you could ask each other. Choose one of them. Set a timer of about 3 minutes and take turns to be the speaker and the listener for that set amount of time each. When you're listening, be an active listener and stay tuned to your partner. This means you can nod, smile, say things like, I hear you. But don't ask questions, don't interrupt, or make comments about what is being said. While you're listening, pay attention to your partner, but also notice your own thoughts, feelings, and body language while you're listening. Notice if you're feeling like it's a challenge. Are you wanting to ask a question? Are you getting anxious for your turn to speak? When you're the speaker, notice how it feels to talk without interruptions or questions. If there's some silence, that's okay. Also, just wait until the speaker wants to talk again, or the timer ends. So possible questions you could ask each other for this practice are, what are some of the things that make you happy or feel meaningful in your life? How do you manage when you're feeling upset or overwhelmed? What is something you're proud of? Pick one of those 3 questions and try active listening together. As I want my children to be open and honest with me, I need to model this behavior by being open and honest with them also. I believe there is an important role to play by sharing certain emotions. Allowing yourself to be seen by them is a way of them growing up knowing that it's okay to feel all of these emotions. I also believe that reserving tough and complicated adult dynamics in certain experiences are not necessary for your children's ears. I don't want my children to carry my pain or trauma. I kind of see it like the ratings you get on films and TV shows, that certain experiences can be comprehended at different developmental ages. What I share with my kids now while they're young will be very different to what I share with them as they grow. Sharing your fears and how you overcame them will allow them to know that you are human too, as are they. Being able to show compassion and empathy as they grow and go through struggles will let them know you are understanding and sympathetic to their suffering. The communication you have with others is what builds your relationships, and it sends a message that you value your children through your feelings and emotions. It also helps them develop good communication skills with you and others. Some ideas maybe is to set time aside for talking and listening to each other. It could be family meals or opportunities to have good conversation. However, I've found that deeper conversations in my home usually happen spontaneously, more often than not just before bed. So this is a tricky situation to navigate, as I find the struggle in me is to see the conversation through to a good vibrational finishing point, while also concerned for the time of getting them off to sleep. However, I also know that sleep won't come if they have a head full of thoughts. I found it best in these cases to listen. Share some of the moments about your own day and allow the space for the interaction to be a natural process of life. Be open to talk about all kinds of feelings, including anger, joy, frustration, and the anxiety you may be having. This helps your children develop a feelings vocabulary. But it's best to wait until you've calmed down from strong emotions like anger before you talk to them. Tune into their body language and watch their facial expressions. Listening isn't just about hearing words, but also about what lies behind those words. And finally, I would say not to rush into problem solving. Your child or the other person may just want you to listen. And in the words of Thich Nhat Hanh, the most precious gift we can offer others is our presence. When mindfulness embraces those we love, they will bloom like flowers. I hope you have a beautiful week. Please share, review, or subscribe to help me grow the show. See you next week.